Hello guys and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to explain how capacitors are manufactured, how different types work, and how to choose the right one without getting confused. Capacitors may look like tiny boring components, but inside electronics they are like little energy buckets. The basic idea is simple. Two metal plates, called electrodes, are separated by an insulating material called the dielectric. When voltage is applied, energy is stored in the electric field between those plates. But not all capacitors are built the same. Ceramic capacitors are tiny, fast and perfect for filtering noise near chips. Electrolytic capacitors are bigger and polarized, but they can store much more charge, so they are common in power supplies. Film capacitors are stable and low loss, making them great for AC, pulse and precision applications. Supercapacitors are the monsters of the capacitor world. They store huge amounts of charge and can charge and discharge very quickly. So when choosing a capacitor, always think about four things: capacitance, voltage rating, ESR or losses, and stability. A capacitor is not just a capacitor. It is a whole family of components, each with its own personality. A ceramic capacitor starts its life as a fine ceramic powder, usually based on barium titanate. That powder is mixed into a slurry, almost like making a very technical pancake batter. But please do not eat this one. The slurry is cast into very thin sheets. These sheets become the dielectric layers. Then internal electrodes are printed on the sheets, usually using nickel paste. Next comes the stacking process. Many layers are placed on top of each other, like an electronic sandwich. After stacking, the block is pressed, cut into tiny chips, and fired at very high temperature, around 1100 to 1250 degrees Celsius. That firing process turns the soft layered structure into a solid ceramic body. Finally, metal terminations are added to the ends, the capacitors are tested, and then packed onto tape reels. Inside one tiny MLCC, there are many alternating layers of ceramic dielectric and metal electrodes. That is why these capacitors can be so small but still useful. Tiny component, very serious manufacturing process. Ceramic capacitors are divided into two big personalities, Class 1 and Class 2. Class 1, like C0G or NP0, is the calm and stable one. It does not like drama. Temperature changes, voltage changes, and time do not affect it much. That makes Class 1 great for precision circuits, RF circuits, filters, oscillators, and timing circuits. But there is a trade-off. Class 1 capacitors usually have low capacitance values. Class 2, like X7R, X5R, and Y5V, is different. It gives you much higher capacitance in a small package, which is amazing for decoupling and filtering. But Class 2 is more sensitive. Its capacitance can change with temperature, DC bias, and aging. So here's the simple rule. Use Class 1 when stability matters. Use Class 2 when you need more capacitance in a small space, especially for power rail decoupling. Class 1 is the precision tool. Class 2 is the everyday workhorse. Ceramic capacitor codes may look like secret passwords, but they actually tell you how the capacitor behaves with temperature. C0G, also called NP0, is the most stable option. Its capacitance stays almost flat, so it is excellent for precision, RF, and timing circuits. X7R is a very common general purpose choice. It can change about plus or minus 15% from minus 55 to plus 125 degrees Celsius. That is good enough for many decoupling and filtering jobs. X5R is similar, but its upper temperature limit is usually plus 85 degrees Celsius. It is compact, common, and useful for decoupling in small circuits. Y5V gives very high capacitance in a small size, but its stability is poor. Its capacitance can change a lot with temperature, so do not use it where accuracy matters. And one more important point. Class 2 ceramics also lose capacitance when DC voltage is applied. This is called DC bias effect. So a capacitor marked 10 microfarads may not behave like 10 microfarads in the real circuit. Sneaky but very important. Aluminum electrolytic capacitors are the classic big cylinders you often see in power supplies. Inside they are not just empty cans. They contain a wound structure called a jelly roll. This jelly roll is made from aluminum anode foil, a very thin aluminum oxide dielectric layer, paper separator soaked with electrolyte, and cathode foil. The aluminum oxide layer is the real dielectric. It is formed electrochemically on the anode foil. The electrolyte helps make electrical contact with the cathode side and allows the capacitor to achieve high capacitance. Because of this construction, aluminum electrolytic capacitors can store a lot of charge for their size. But they are polarized, so the positive and negative terminals must be connected correctly. Reverse polarity is not a small mistake here. It can cause heating, leakage, or failure. They are great for smoothing, filtering, and bulk energy storage in power circuits. Think of them as the water tanks of electronics. Not the fastest, not the smallest, but very useful when you need stored energy. Tantalum capacitors are like compact, high-performance cousins of aluminum electrolytics. From the outside, they often look like small molded chips with a polarity marking. That marking is very important because tantalum capacitors are polarized. Inside, they use a sintered porous tantalum anode pellet. Porous means it has a huge internal surface area, which helps create high capacitance in a small package. On that tantalum surface, a thin tantalum pentoxide layer forms the dielectric. Then a cathode material is added, often manganese dioxide or a conductive polymer. After that come graphite and silver layers to improve conductivity. This construction gives tantalum capacitors high capacitance density, low leakage, and good stability. But they need respect. They do not like reverse voltage, surge current, or overvoltage. So tantalum capacitors are useful, but they are not forgiving. Give them proper voltage derating, and they will behave nicely. Ignore the rules, and they may become a tiny expensive smoke machine. Film capacitors use thin plastic film as the dielectric. The film can be wound like a roll or stacked in layers. Metallized electrodes are added to store charge. Two common film materials are polypropylene, called PP, and polyester, also called PET or mylar. Polypropylene is the premium low-loss option. It has better stability, lower dielectric loss, and better pulse and high-frequency performance. That makes it great for AC circuits, snubbers, resonance circuits, audio crossovers, and precision timing. Polyester is more compact and usually cheaper. It has a higher dielectric constant, so for the same capacitance, it can often be smaller. But polyester has higher losses and lower stability compared to polypropylene. So the easy rule is this: choose PP when you need low loss, high stability, and good pulse handling. Choose PET when you want smaller size and lower cost for general purpose use. PP is the performance choice. PET is the practical budget-friendly choice. Supercapacitors are not normal capacitors. They are the bodybuilders of the capacitor world. Instead of using a normal dielectric layer like many other capacitors, they store energy at the surface of porous carbon electrodes using something called the electric double layer. Inside there are porous carbon electrodes, electrolyte, a separator, and current collectors. The porous carbon gives a massive surface area. More surface area means more place to store charge. That is why supercapacitors can reach farads, hundreds of farads, or even thousands of farads. They charge and discharge very quickly, deliver high power, and can survive a huge number of cycles. But they also have limits. A typical cell voltage is only around 2.7 volts. So for higher voltage, cells must be connected in series. And when cells are in series, balancing is needed so one cell does not get overcharged. Supercapacitors are great for memory backup, peak power assist, regenerative braking, ride-through power, and short burst loads. They are not battery replacements for everything, but when fast power is needed, they are extremely useful. Voltage rating tells you the maximum voltage a capacitor can safely handle under specified conditions. But the real circuit is not always calm. There can be DC voltage, AC ripple, switching spikes, temperature stress, and surge events. If the capacitor stays below its rated limits, it operates in the safe region. But if voltage spikes above the rating, dielectric can be damaged. That can cause leakage, heating, short circuits, or complete failure. Electrolytic capacitors need correct polarity and ripple current control. MLCC capacitors can lose capacitance as DC voltage increases. Film capacitors are usually strong in AC and pulse applications. Supercapacitors must stay below their maximum cell voltage, and series strings need balancing. So voltage rating is not just a number printed on the part, it is a boundary. Stay inside it, and the capacitor lives a long happy life. Go outside it, and the capacitor may decide to retire early. Derating means using a capacitor below its maximum rating to improve reliability. It is like not driving your car at maximum speed all day. The car can do it, but it probably will not enjoy it. For C0G or NP0 ceramic capacitors, using around 70 to 80% of the rated voltage is often acceptable. For X7R and X5R ceramics, designers often use around 50 to 70% because capacitance drops with D, C bias, and reliability margin is important. For aluminum electrolytics, 70 to 80% is common, but ripple current and temperature must also be checked. For tantalum capacitors, stronger derating is usually used, often around 50% on power rails, because they are more sensitive to surge and overvoltage. Film capacitors can often be used around 80 to 90%, depending on AC stress, pulse stress, and temperature. For supercapacitors, the rule is different. Keep every cell below its maximum voltage, typically around 2.5 to 2.7 volts per cell, and use balancing in series strings. Final rule: always check the manufacturer datasheet. Derating is not wasted capacity, it is cheap insurance for reliability. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Please share, like, and comment below. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos.